Hey everyone, David here, back again to review what seems to be the last episode of Gotham for a really long time. I was not expecting this, but apparently there's going to be yet another break in the middle of the season until, I believe, April 13th. So I don't know if they're trying to line it up with something, because we only got 4 episodes left after this one. So I'm assuming season 1's going to end around the middle of May. And maybe they have planned to release something or show something at the end in the middle of May to coincide with the ending of Gotham. But I don't know. All I know is that we're not getting another episode of Gotham until April 13th. So I better make this one count. So this is for the episode entitled "Everyone Has a Cobblepot," and I know that sounds kind of a weird, quirky title, and trust me, there were some weird, quirky, and I dare say cartoonish moments in this episode which really brought it down for me just a tad bit, and I'll talk about those in a second. But for the most part, this was yet another episode that I really enjoyed. I didn't really enjoy it as much as Red Hood, but it had something in it that I don't know. There was something about it that felt a little different than the previous Gotham episodes. Now, in this one, there's a couple of things that take a step back or take a pause in terms of its progress and in terms of it advancing the story. For one, the whole stuff with Ed trying to woo Miss Kringle and then failing yet once again. We've seen that material before, and we see it yet again in this episode, so I'm not going to tackle that. And then it's almost like the show decided to put a pin on the whole story about Alfred getting stabbed by his old friend from the army, and Bruce trying to look into that, because at the beginning we got that small little recap scene of Bruce telling Selina what was going on, and beyond that we do not see Bruce once again. So it's almost like they're just pushing that to the side for now. The main focus of this episode was Gordon trying to investigate what was it that Commissioner Lobe had on everyone to be able to handle the system in a very corrupt way. And I really enjoyed this case. For one, it brought back Harvey Dent. And despite not being that huge of a fan of this portrayal of Harvey Dent, I feel like the actor is just a tad bit too young. I think he really worked in this episode because he had an awful lot to bring to the table when it came to this particular case, because it had almost like an internal affairs type of feeling, and they even had some Asian people in there chasing our main heroes with knives. So you can definitely tell that the people who wrote and directed this had a huge influence from those Korean cop movies, especially Internal Affairs. I don't know if it was Korean or Japanese. I'm pretty sure it was Korean. But Internal Affairs is actually the movie that the Martin Scorsese movie The Departed is based on. So I liked that it kind of had that similar vibe going for this case of Gordon trying to look into what was within the system that was corrupting everything and handling everything in a very perverted way. It even had a nice little twist ending at the end, with Commissioner Loeb's daughter being the one responsible for what Loeb had kind of on himself, something that he was hiding, and hence the title of the episode. Everyone has a Cobblepot. Everyone has that one person they needed to take care of, and Loeb had that information with him, and because of that he was able to extort the system. However, just like Bullock said, everyone has a Cobblepot, including Loeb, and Loeb's Cobblepot was his daughter, who was the one that killed his wife, and Loeb simply just tried to cover it up. And it's not that big of a surprising twist, but it did bring us this character of I can't remember her name, started with an M, but Loeb's daughter, who I thought was really well acted by this actress. You know, she was really creepy, but at the same time she felt just a tad bit sympathetic. Like you actually feel like she's legitimately sick, and you wish she would get better, but at the same time you're like, okay, maybe you should belong in the attic. I think you should just stay there. And just like Harvey Dent had an essential role in this case, so did Penguin. In the past couple of episodes, we've seen Penguin struggle with trying to maintain that club going, and it was just, I don't know, it was like treading water a little bit. It was getting a little bit boring, plus he was failing at that miserably. So to see him come back as that force of that Gordon needs in order to be able to progress in this case, and he has the information that nobody else will, it was cool to see Penguin play that role once more and have an essential part of the story. The only thing that I gotta be honest felt just a tad bit forced was the twist ending with him and these old folks who he actually hired to kill Gordon and Bullock. I felt like they were just reaching for a few too many twist endings. I mean, we get even another one right afterwards before we cut to the credits, which I'll talk about in a second. But before that, we get not only the old folks being revealed to being hitmen for Cobblepot. But then he also pulls a bit of a Joker on them. You know how Joker breaks that pool stick and says we're gonna have tryouts, and he throws the sharpest one to those three guys and insinuates that they have to fight it out to the death. It's almost the same thing here, where he says, hey, I only got one ticket for Arizona, so how do we choose who goes? She offs her husband, and then it's revealed that he didn't have any tickets, and he shoots her, and he kills both of them. So I was like, okay, I feel like you guys are just reaching. Sure, the Joker-esque type of method to offering off your hitman there was kind of neat, but I felt like they were reaching for a few too many twist endings there at the end. We already had one with Lobe's daughter, then we have another one with Fish Mooney there at the end, and so to sandwich this one in there between those two, I felt like it was just a bit too much. The only other subplot that gets a good chunk of screen time would be the whole thing with Fish Mooney, which I was actually pretty damn interested in, because if you guys remember in my review for last week's episode, I stated that I actually wanted to see what happened with Mooney after she scooped out her eye, and I wanted to come back to that story and see how she ended up, and we didn't. So I was a little bit bummed, surprisingly bummed because of that. So we finally got to see the end result of that here with not only the introduction of the Dollmaker here, who was really well acted by this actor. I really like the character so far, and he feels like a cool, creepy, yet very sophisticated looking villain. But also the stuff with Fish Mooney and how she is once again trying to use her methods of persuasion to become management. My main complaint, however, would be that I feel like we just came back full circle with Fish Mooney. Like, there's no arc. I mean, yeah, she scooped out her eye, and that would have been a really cool character trait, a really cool character moment that would have given her some kind of arc. But now, besides the different color of her left eye, she's pretty much the same. She's doing the same exact thing that she did before, even sacrificing innocent people that she was actually cool with, like that guy who had her back, just so that she can save not only her skin, but also save the skin of the people who are going to be loyal to her. So that way she could be on top. That way she can be the main one once more, just like she was back in that club with Butch. And I'm like, okay, so what, you know, her taking her eye out, sure, it was a tactical method, but does nothing for the character. And so now we're back to Mooney being Mooney yet once more. I was really hoping for an angle with that incident at the end of last week's episode to make her a different character, to make her one that is actually kind of scared and afraid and has layers to her. But instead, we're back to just regular Mooney, and that's the way I feel about her. Plus, again, we find out later on with another twist ending that she is isolated on this island, so her methods here are being hindered once more, because where's she going to run off to? And even Dollmaker says, hey, or Dollmaker, whatever his name is, says, hey, do you see why I actually kind of have confidence in you? Because I know you're not going to run. There's nowhere to run. And in this subplot, we also get what I consider to be the most campiest, cartoonish, and goofiest looking moment of practically the entire series, and I'm talking Batman and Robin goofy. And that was the scene where, in a method to scare Mooney into not doing anything rash, Dollmaker shows her what he can do with people who are incompetent or disobedient. And basically he took the guy who I thought was Hugo Strange, and because he did this to that guy, I'm assuming he's not going to be Hugo Strange, but he takes that assistant from last week's episode and basically just makes him a woman, which we kind of do nowadays, and people do on a regular basis nowadays to become, you know, transsexual people. And he just gives him a female body while at the same time retaining his male head. And just not only did the effects look very cheap, but just the aesthetic of that whole thing. It's supposed to be horrific, but I just laughed my ass off. And quite frankly, I don't think that's the only moment that was supposed to be either serious or intense, yet it came off as comedic. There's that scene later on where that lady with the shotgun tries to like run away, and she barely hits her table with her leg, and she automatically falls out like, oh, like that. I'm like, what was that? That Asian guy in the secret room in the restaurant, he answers his phone and he's like, I mean, come on, guys. But on the bright side, I at least was entertained by some of those moments. Even though they were unintentionally funny, they were entertaining, and for the most part, the episode was really well paced, and I really dug the main case of the week in this episode with Gordon doing some kind of internal affairs type of work within the GCPD unit, with Harvey and Cobblepot being essential parts to it and making them very essential characters to this episode's particular plot. And so I really did enjoy this episode, not as much as Red Hood, but it came in pretty close. So for that, I give Everyone Has a Cobblepot a solid 8 out of 10. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of Gotham, and I'll see you guys next month with the review of the next episode of Gotham. Until then, take care.